Another time attack builder that we're kind of known for helping is Jackie and his Supra. He was really struggling, I don't know for how many years, 1 year, 2 year. But then we finally linked up because we have our own Supra. I believe Clay actually reached out to him, and Jackie, he says this funnily, making fun of us. It is funny, but it's also kind of sad at the same time. It's fine. Clay reached out to him initially, and Jackie was like, I don't want to work with those guys, because we did an FT86 time attack build for Jeremy at FT86 Speed Factory. And the one time that the car ran before Jeremy kind of just gave up on the car, it overheated. So Jackie associated us with building overheating time attack cars and didn't want to work with us.
Joke's on him, we didn't do the cooling.
We kind of did a little bit.
We just did the ducting.
Yeah, we just did the ducting.
But the hood was off.
Yeah, it was, and it was also, the issue was the charge cooler, I think. It was like 4 inches thick and it wasn't getting airflow through the entire car at all. But anyways, that's besides the point. So, so Jackie kind of ignored us for a year and then struggled for that year. And then, I forget if Paul or me or Clay reached out to him again, and Jackie reluctantly kind of like came to us and was like, yeah, I mean, you guys already have a Supra, you have some parts for it, let's try and fix what we're dealing with. And I think when he came in, he had, what, like 7% front downforce or something?
I don't remember.
It
wasn't as much as he wanted, that's for sure.
That's for damn sure. So Jackie reached out, we scanned his car, it wasn't making the front downforce required for it to be a balanced setup. And then Paul set out to basically design, and we developed the Spage, what's known as quote unquote the Spage, but it's actually Paul's design. And that's when Jackie started winning basically his class and just taking record after record. And if I remember the numbers correctly, it was like 300 pounds of downforce, which wasn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it was literally all on the nose, which shifted the aero balance like 40% forward.
He wanted, I asked him, because his issue was how much, like his main issue was he didn't have enough front downforce. So of course, the first question you would ask somebody who doesn't have enough front downforce is, well, how much do you want? And then his answer was, as much as you can give me. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yes. And I was like, all right. And so we designed something, and I was like, this is a lot. This is very front bias. It was 60. It was over 65%. It was above 65, under 70% front downforce. Which, if you know anything about where your aero balance should be, that is insane. So your aero balance, think of it as like a point, like where, like if you can balance the car like on your finger, where it would be location wise on the car for aero loads. So say it was 65%, that'd be 65% to the front, which means it would be like right at the front of the car, and the back car would be hanging back here. So it's a ton of load on the front, which if you do that, car wants to oversteer. So that's when you get stability issues. Usually you want your center of pressure behind your center of gravity for stability reasons. But he was the driver, and I was like, okay, we can give you whatever you want. So he gave it. He loved driving it that way. So and usually cars are faster. The more front you can usually give it, it's faster the better the driver is. The worse the driver, you should have more rear downforce. And that's kind of how you should focus it. And that's why you really need a kit that can be tunable. But that was a big learning experience of like kind of what you can get away with on front downforce with certain drivers of what they like. And that kind of led on to what I felt comfortable with the Hunapig. And after talking to Patim and stuff like that, with driver skill level, is it lets you have a better idea of what you can and can't get away with on skill level versus downforce and location of that. Because almost anybody can, I would say almost anybody, a lot of people can make downforce. It's not that hard. Put big wings on stuff, put a big splitter, like you can make downforce. Might be ugly, but you can do it. But can you balance it? And that's a tricky thing to do. It's a tricky thing to get right. It's a tricky analysis to actually get right. So there's a lot of issues, and that's definitely the hardest part of actually getting good data, is getting good aero balance numbers, and then also what drivers can get away with.
Something else that Jackie kind of actually enlightened me on, I think it was, so they were basically, that entire year that they were developing it before us, they were using the suspension to band-aid it. So they were basically and I'm not a suspension guy, I'll be fully honest, but they were messing with the sway bars, they were messing with spring rates, basically trying to get as much weight and as much front grip as they could out of it, and that ended up ruining their low speed corners because the car didn't perform well when there was no aero load, and then it also ruined their high speed corners because they didn't have the front grip that they required. So it would, what would it, I don't know, it would probably understeer in high speed and oversteer in low because of how they were manipulating the mechanical grip to work with the aero grip. That was lacking. Once they ended up going with our front splitter and then they did another full year of campaigning the car, they basically found out that they were able to completely solve the low speed corner issues that they were having because mechanically the car matched aerodynamically. And that was huge for them. Jackie was able to throw it into corners faster. He was able to tackle high speed corners faster, low speed corners faster. It was just like, he was like, you guys transformed, Paul transformed the Supra and basically made him love the car. He fought it before and then ended up loving it, and it was basically an aero balance issue. We also obviously added 300 pounds of downforce, which in the grand scheme of things was probably like 20%. So it wasn't a lot, but it was the aero balance that really netted that. I think he went like 5-6 seconds faster around some of the tracks.
All right, so we just got done talking with Paul and the Supra work that we did for Jackie, the Supra work. And now we're joined with Matt, who has taken on Jackie's latest project, which is that BMW M2. So we're gonna kind of roll through what our development process was for that M2 and kind of discuss that with Matt and see his feedback and thoughts there.
Yeah, so I think the Supra project seemed like it went really well. Jackie won. He won everything there was to win and set pretty much every record there was to set, I think, right? Yeah, so the scope for the M2 was definitely a lot different than what we did for the Supra. The M2 scope was to see how far Jackie could take something more representative of our standard off-the-shelf products, like sort of the full Veris package. See how far he can go with that, see how well he can do, and then it's Jackie, so he's gonna wanna go super wild at some point with it. But yeah, we wanted to see what we could do with a sort of a streetable, regular consumer aero package for the M2 and kind of get some back and forth, some feedback with them and some good testing.
This also was at a point when Jackie and Alex like kind of launched their company, PhD Racing. They'd been doing it previously, but they really were deep diving into it, and it kind of seemed like a synergistic relationship in that the products that are going to go on the race car are going to actually be sold. A lot of those cars that you see on Time Attack, the products really aren't sold as like a production-ready product. It's very, I don't want to say hodgepodge, but it's grassroots racer products that are kind of like transposed onto the car, made to work. These products that we developed for Jackie and the M2 community at this point are what we would consider an OEM fit finish product. It bolts on like stock, and it's products that now Jackie's able to sell and say, hey, they worked really well. So that was kind of fun to do, which we haven't done in the past, and it kind of worked out well for, I think, both companies and the community as a whole as a result. Because when you go wild with a Time Attack car and you have a gigantic splitter and a huge wing, most people, that's out of what most people want to do to a car anyway. Is it great for performance? Hell yeah, it's time and place. But as far as what we did for the M2, great streetable kit, works on the track, looks great, feels great.
Yeah, and with like the sort of one-off Time Attack stuff, you can not cut corners, but there's a lot of details that you don't have to consider quite as much. You can kind of go, we'll put some stuff in place and then we'll figure it out as we go. We just need to get things moving. But when something becomes a Veris product, it needs to meet a certain level of fit, finish, documentation, and ease of install. I think the main thing was he definitely had a certain style he wanted for the rear wing and the sort of the upright shape specifically. So we kind of went back and forth with PhD and kind of iterated through a few different options, and they had a big influence on the look of the rear wing kit.
props to Jackie. We do love it now.
Yeah.
Initially, we thought it was terrible. It was a napkin sketch. We were like, this is terrible. Why are we even going to try this? Then we tried it. Then Matt worked a little bit of his magic. And honestly, at the end of the day, it looks really good. So, Jackie, thumbs up. You were right. I'll admit it.
Yes.
His upright design came within like less than an inch of the rear glass, so that was a win too.
Oh yeah, that was really solid.
Super luck.
I was a little bit terrified the first time someone walked over and flipped the trunk open and it just went whoop right up to the glass. But
yeah, fun stuff. We got lucky there.
yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yep. Now we know what to look for every time we design a new upright.
That also, like, we didn't have the car here, so it's
Yeah, that was true.
we had a scan of the underside of the trunk and the trunk closed, but we didn't have like the
trunk
actual
open.
trunk mechanism or a scan with the trunk open that included the car. So yeah, that was a bit of an oversight, but
We now know what to do.
it's okay now.
Fun stuff.
The biggest thing was the oil cooler in the splitter. So we try our best to model as many heat exchangers as we can on a given platform when we're setting up our CFD model. And the M2 has it's got like 2 coolant radiators right in the front, 2 auxiliary coolant radiators off to the side, and a flat oil cooler that sits in the front bumper kind of parallel with the road, and it actually dumps underneath the car. And so our initial splitter concept just had a hole cut out for the oil cooler, and it completely destroyed splitter performance. Like it ruined it. We did sort of a similar design concept to our high downforce Supra splitter. It had the carbon tunnels in it, and it wasn't performing because of that oil cooler duct. So there was a lot of head scratching and messing around with the model and blocking the heat exchanger, trying different ducting, moving the splitter around, but we ended up coming up with a solution it's probably 85% of what just a flat splitter would do without an opening for the oil cooler. So
What were some of your takeaways from working with Jackie, I guess, late 2023, early 2024?
So the M2 platform was one of the earlier platforms that I worked on, but to kind of go through Veris's process for setting up a car in CFD and doing all the analysis, and then knowing what kind of car setup Jackie likes, being able to say, hey, I think you're gonna want 5 degrees of rear wing, and have him go test the car. He came back and I think he ended up with 4 or something. And so that was really reassuring to me that what I was doing and what Veris does translates to the real world, and it works, and we've got kind of a valuable testing procedure that we can use to inform our designs. Actually, one thing that is kind of interesting with the M2 is as they've worked on the platform and continued driving it, it kind of seems that Jackie's happier with a more rear biased setup in the M2 than what he liked in the Supra, which probably just comes down to differences in the platforms, different suspension, wheel, tire setup, but
Yeah, he's definitely moved it a little bit to more rear biased. He now runs that V1X rear wing, which makes more downforce, more efficiently too.
Yeah.
So he likes that it reduces drag, and then he's actually making more rear downforce, even though he thought he was making less, but it's not a big deal. It's just, it's interesting. But yeah, so even the same car, same driver, same platform, same everything. He's added some power, probably tweaked the suspension who knows how many times with Alex, and it seems like he likes a little bit more rear bias. So that was definitely interesting too. So that wraps up our video as far as our relationship with Jackie Ding and PhD Racing. We really enjoyed Jackie and Alex and PhD Racing and working with them in whatever capacity we do in the past and will do in the future, hopefully. Until next time, I'm out. I'm Eric. That's Matt. See you later.